What's happening, guys? Ari here with Boston Automotive Consulting, and as always, this video is brought to you by SaveOnMyAuto.com, where you'll be able to go on and have multiple dealerships start sending you price quotes on brand new cars. And in this video today, I'm going to be covering, is it a smart idea to buy out your leased car or lease a car with the intention of buying it at the end? If you haven't already, please consider subscribing, because this channel is all about giving solid negotiation and car buying advice, and I don't want you to miss a single thing that could help you save some money while you're out there negotiating. So, diving right in, you guys. Somebody once told me that me and Dave Ramsey would probably go really well head to head, and I've got to say I've paid attention to a lot of what he's had to say before, and I've come to the conclusion that a lot of what he says is correct. He may make some bold, generalized statements sometimes, but for the most part, he is right. I do want to throw in a big fat however in that statement though. So most luxury cars, I can tell you off the bat, no matter how aggressive of a lease payment that you get, it will never actually make sense to purchase it at the end. And let me tell you why. So the lease end purchase price, whether you got a smoking hot deal on the lease payment or you got robbed blind on the lease payment, will be the same for both people. The residual value at the end is not calculated based off of how great of a deal you got. So most of the time when you're trying to figure out, is it worth buying the leased car at the end of the lease, the simplest, best way to do this without actually having to take my, Dave Ramsey's, or any other person's advice here on YouTube is taking the residual value amount, as in the buyout amount, and looking up your car on cars.com or AutoTrader to see exactly what your car is selling for on the used and certified market. And I want to encourage you to go after more on the certified market to see if it would even make sense to just go out and make a deal with the dealership to trade in your car or turn in your car and pick up a certified one and not even have to worry about extending the warranty on your current car. So just as an example, just last night, I had a phone call with a gentleman and he was asking me whether or not it would make sense to purchase his leased Audi A4. And I gave him a bunch of details about what my hesitations are if he were to do that. And a lot of it had to do with both how much he was buying the car for relative to how much the certified market value was, which was less than the buyout price, and if he needed to do any additional work to make it certified condition. And it very, very quickly and clearly brought him to the conclusion that it would make a lot more sense to just purchase a certified one at a price less than the buyout price of his current car. However, it doesn't always work like that, because a few months ago, I was also contacted by another person who was asking me, would it make sense to lease out a Toyota Sienna and then purchase it at the end? And I said, typically it doesn't make sense to lease out a car with the intention of buying. And then after getting the residual value amount from the lease company before she signed, we compared it with certified vehicles on the market, and the residual value or the buyout value on the Sienna was far less than what comparable Siennas were selling for. I think at the end of the day, it's very easy to make a generalized statement that leasing a car and buying it out at the end definitely doesn't make sense. But I think taking advice is not the best solution. I think that you've ultimately got to take your specific situation, as in taking your residual value or buyout amount plus anything that you think is affecting the value of that car, searching for identical cars just like yours and seeing what they're selling for on the retail market and seeing whether or not these two values are close. And if for any reason your buyout amount is less than the retail amount of cars just like yours, it would be a phenomenal idea to buy out your car at the end of the lease. But for example, if your leased Mercedes has a buyout price of $30,000 and certified ones identical to the one that you're leasing are selling for $25,000, then it would be a horrible idea. The idea of buying your leased car at the end of the lease usually makes far more sense on general, more everyday cars like Subarus, Hondas, Toyotas, cars that actually keep their value very, very well. And even in those cases, I would highly suggest, instead of playing the guessing game or taking my or somebody else's advice on YouTube, to take actual data, to take numerical values and compare them against one another so that you can actually figure out whether or not it makes sense to buy out your leased car. I can very easily say though, leasing a car with the intention of buying it at the end does not make the most financial sense when you're looking at it from an overall cost perspective. However, if you're looking to just have a lower payment for a few years until you can afford to just finance the rest, doing out a simple calculation of how much all your lease payments are going to cost and adding it to the residual value and figuring out exactly what your total cost is going to be and seeing exactly how much the overall expenditure is in either scenario is the best bet in trying to figure out exactly how bad of an idea it is to lease out a car and then buy it out at the end. Ultimately, having the convenience of a lower payment may be worth a lot to some people that want a new car, that want a lot of features, and don't really have the time to wait around for a solid used car. And paying a tiny bit more for that convenience may actually make a lot of sense for a lot of people. And I'm not gonna be the one on YouTube to tell you this is an awful idea and you're stupid for doing this, because ultimately not everybody wants to pay cash for a 10-year-old car. I hope that made sense, you guys. It's very, very important to be very, very mathematical in your approach to the question, does it make sense to buy out my leased car? You can very, very quickly figure out for your particular scenario if it does or doesn't just by comparing your payoff amount to what the retail market is dictating that that car is selling for. If you found this information useful and you want to see more of these new car buying and negotiation tip type videos, please consider subscribing. And don't forget to visit saveonmyauto.com down in the link in the description below to get a head start on your new car shopping. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.